Hey there, welcome back to High Infidelity, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to channel for more spicy stories. Now, let's get into today's story video.
5 days since I served my SDBXW, 30 female of 7 years, now everyone is piling on me to talk to her. Some background, we started dating when we were 20 and married after she got pregnant with our kid. Our marriage was fantastic. We had another child, a girl, 2 years after the first, and we have enjoyed amazing intimacy, communication, and financial stability. Our home was ours. We had a pet cat. The children are well-balanced and doing well. We were content, or so I thought. Then, approximately 4 months ago, my wife, let's call her Sue, came home from work raving about their new boss. Let's name him Frank. I felt uncomfortable immediately away, like if something wasn't quite right. I smiled and asked a few inquiries, such as if he was married, whether he had children, where he lived, and so on. She informs me that he is on his second marriage and has 4 children in all. I assumed this was a crush. I've experienced them before, but they typically pass. So I decided to simply wait and see if it went gone on its own. This happened every day for the following week, and I became more concerned. I decided to check to see if there was anything else going on, so I informed Sue that I had received a virus warning on the home network, and that she needed to update the virus software on her pad, mobile, and laptop. She is really inept at it. She handed me her equipment, and I downloaded remote monitoring software and keylogging software from the finest internet source I could locate. Best $20 a month membership I've ever purchased. A few days later, I noticed the first text messages they exchanged, which were rather benign. Most of them are work-related. Nonetheless, the frequency increases somewhat over the following 4-6 weeks and becomes more personal. I had a gentle confrontation with my wife. When she gets home from work, I lock my gaze on her. Sue, what's the matter? Me, did you have a car accident or something? Sue, what do you mean? Me, do you seem to have done anything bad and are attempting to conceal it? Sue, is it correct? I'm not, so what are you on about? Me, you seem to be guilty of something. Are you telling the truth to me? Is there anything more you want to tell me? Sue, no. I simply had a hard day at work. Blah 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 blah. There were fewer texts between them during the following several days, but they are fast getting back into the swing of things. As the texts get more flirtatious, I gently address her one again. She's lied to me again. Around the 2-month point, I determine that this will most likely end horribly, and I resolve to brace myself for the worst. I also begin to mentally prepare myself. Over the following 2 months, their interactions escalate into a full-fledged emotional affair that becomes more physical. I confront my wife on several occasions, but I never offer any proof. She continues to deceive. I'm not going to make her quit. After all, she is an adult who makes her own decisions. She lies to my face over and over again. I sense a massive chasm forming between us. Intimacy is also halted. I'm finding that I'm checking out of the marriage in tandem with their activities. I'm sad, but I'm working out hard and bracing myself for the realization that divorce is the only possible option at this time. I hire a lawyer, prepare the papers, and even hire a person to be on standby to serve her if I decide to cut the cord. Then I read the first text where they arrange to meet up, and I am relieved because I can finally decide to terminate it. It's awful just to watch this train accident occur. On the day they're supposed to meet, I hire a room on the same level and have my man ready to serve her at the hotel. When the big day approaches, she lies and tells me she needs to work extra hours. I travel to the hotel to await her arrival, and the person I hired to serve her go up to her floor around 10 minutes after she gets into the elevator. The only reason I booked a room was because the elevator required a key card. We'd approach the door, and I hear groaning, indicating that they are already there. I duck around the corner while he pounds on the door. They go silent. Frank, what exactly is it? Serving man, I got an urgent delivery for Sue. Sue, what exactly is it? Guy who serves, I'm not sure, ma'am. I've just been informed that it's urgent and that it has to be given to you immediately now. After some back and forth, the wife eventually opens the door in her robe. Guy who serves Sue, what's your last name, wife? Yes, she takes the envelope, and I go out to sign the form. When my wife sees me, she gets completely white. I sign the necessary documents and go over to her. She doesn't move, and I'm not sure what's wrong with her. She seems befuddled to say the least. It's as though what she's seeing doesn't add up. I'd planned for this moment. I take a peek around the room. Frank. Hey, reveal yourself, I know you're in there. He peers around the corner, apparently terrified. Frank, did you like my wife? Or is it your deception of your own wife that gets you off? Or is it having several mistresses at the same time? Frank. Is it deceiving and cheating on everyone? Is that all? Frank. Complete quiet. Then I turn to face my wife. Sue, you didn't believe you were the only psychic this man had, did you? As far as I know, you are one of three. I made this up. I have no clue whether he has any other mistresses than my wife. I simply wanted to be rude and wreck their plans. Me, Sue. Listen to me, you're single now, so don't let me bother you any longer. You may go back to your hobbies. Then I rushed out. I began weeping, but I didn't want them to notice, so I hurried down the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator. On my way, I heard my wife let out a primal scream unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Those final few days, I found a lot of consolation in that scream. I went into my care and wept for hours. I'm largely over it now, and I'm relieved it's finished. I'm free to go. Actually, I feel emancipated. I informed the children that they would be staying with my parents for the time being. I've even begun flirting with a coworker, and I joined Tinder, where I'm conversing with a few ladies, which is a tremendous boost to my ego. I'm not interested in anything physical or serious. I'm not sure I'll ever trust somebody enough to have a long-term relationship again. I haven't spoken to my wife in a long time. She bombards me with texts, which I just ignore. But everyone is phoning and attempting to guilt trip/pressurize me into speaking with her. I've also considered informing Frank's wife. If I were her, I'd want to know, and I don't believe Frank would suddenly grow a spine and admit it. Edit. I decided to notify my wife, so I contacted her and gave her the important details. She didn't believe me straight away, so I'm meeting her at a coffee shop in an hour. I've also begun to ask those who phone me to inquire as to why I'm not talking to her. It seems to be slowing down the barrage. Update 1. It was quite beneficial to me. I was able to get rid of the majority of calls, with just a few stragglers behind who were attempting to push me. I met with Frank's wife. More on that later. The two best replies were discovered to be 1. Why don't you inquire as to why we aren't conversing? This was quite effective. If number 1 doesn't work, try number 2. Consider the trauma Sue has caused on me in order for me to avoid touch. You putting pressure on me is adding to my stress. Will you cover the cost of my counseling if I experience a complete mental breakdown? No. Okay, maybe you should keep out of this. All right, that's okay. Click second. I believe I need to explain something. Many people believe I was in complete control and performed a fantastic move. I was a complete mess the whole day, except for the 10 minutes when I addressed her. It took me 2 months of preparation and steeling myself to pull off the 10-minute encounter. I was hoping she'd come back down and turn around at the door. She had plenty of opportunities to stop and tell the truth, but she didn't. I think I was hoping that if she hadn't stopped at the last second, we might have spoken about reconciling until they got physical. It took all I had not to weep at the hotel. In fact, I began sobbing before I got to the end of the corridor. Also, I didn't do it for vengeance. I did it to break free and reclaim part of my self-worth. Being dumped was embarrassing, humiliating, and emasculating. I'm nothing more than a shell of my previous self. I recognize this is because I loved her with all of my heart, which is why I chose to go NC. I don't believe I'm strong enough yet to confront her without breaking down, and I'll never exhibit any weakness in front of her or anybody else who may express that to her. It was all about me when I asked Frank the questions that surprised and confronted my wife. It's not them. I regained control of my life, but I know I'd be too weak to keep it if I saw her now. So I'll fortify my resolve and steel myself. I will never again be nice or considerate to her. I shall be nothing more than a rock-hard, ice-cold, emotionless, insensitive ex-husband for her. Once the divorce is finalized, I want to burn her and Frank's lives to the ground. Until then, I'll focus on bettering myself and moving on with my life. They are free to do anything they want. I have no influence over their decisions, I can only control mine. Many people have questioned me how I can be so cold and calculating, and I believe a few have even labeled me mad. That is not how I see things. Let me state unequivocally that I do not like this at all. It's acts that I consider as vitally important for my own well-being and sanity. Life is change, and in my instance, my marriage has developed gangrene, therefore I'm terminating it before it affects more of my body and causes irreversible harm. I've also resolved not to flirt or do anything on Tinder. It was a wonderful lift to my ego, but I'm in a vulnerable place, and I'm afraid I'll hurt someone else since I'm not really in control of my emotions right now. It would be selfish of me to put anybody else in danger merely to satisfy my own ego. I met Frank's wife yesterday, and we spoke for hours in the coffee shop where we met. She was heartbroken, so she contacted Frank and confronted him with me on TV next to her. He pleaded. She had been prepared for this while we chatted, but she eventually broke down and hung up on him. She ended up spending the night in the spare room of my new apartment. She couldn't bear the thought of going home and confronting him. We chatted all night, and it was great to be able to release my rage with someone who knew how betrayed I felt. I heard her weeping herself to sleep last night, and it was horrible. I wanted to go hold her, but I didn't want to make things awkward or unpleasant for her. I'll ask her today if there's anything I can do to assist. I told her she could stay as long as she wanted since no one else knew about the flat but me. It's tiny and lacks furnishings, but it offers lots of food and all the conveniences you'd expect. She's attempting to gather her bearings before confronting Frank. Frank has been bombarding her with texts and apologies. She hadn't reacted to any of them when I left for work this morning. Beyond messages 1 and 2, the only person I've spoken with is my wife's mom. I like her because she is so lovely and always makes me feel welcome and cared for. She informed me that my wife will be confined to a psychiatric institution for discussing fatal self-harm. She seemed to have been in a terrible mood since the motel. I informed her that she was no longer my responsibility, that she made these decisions, and that she would have to live with the consequences. I'd prefer it if she didn't keep me updated on my wife, since it was already difficult and I needed space to fully detach myself from her. I told her that there is absolutely no hope of reconciliation. We shall not contact at all unless it is relevant to our children once the divorce is finalized, and all of this will be done while writing. I'm having enough trouble coping with myself right now. So, despite the fact that I'm not as strong as many people believe, I was able to get myself together just enough to cut the cord after 2 months of intensive work. And if I met her today, I'd definitely dissolve into a weeping wreck. I needed time to recuperate, but everyone phoning kept me from doing so. So, once again, thank you Reddit for assisting me in fending off the well-meaning folks who were interfering in my relationship on my wife's behalf. Stay tuned for the next part.